सतनाम करता पुरख निरभौ निर्वैर अकाल मूरत अजूनी सैभं गुर प्रसाद जप आदि सच जुगादि सच है भी सच नानक होसी भी सच दंडोत बंधन अनेक बार सर्ब कला समरथ डोलन ते राखो प्रभु नानक दे कर हथ डोलन ते राखो प्रभु नानक दे कर हथ। आसा महला पंजवा। साईं अलख अपार पोरी मन वसै दुख दर्द रोग माय मैडा हब नसै हो वन्या कुर्बान साईं अपने होवे अनद कणा मन तन जापने बिंदक गाल सुनी सच्चे तिस तणी सुखी हूँ सुख पाए माए ना कीम गणी नैन पसंदो सोए पेख मुस्ताक पई मैं निर्गुण मेरी माए आप लड़ लाए लई बेद कतेब संसार हब्बा हूँ बाहरा नानक का पात साहो दिसै जाहरा बेद कतेब संसार हब्बा हूँ बाहरा नानक का पात साहो दिसै जाहरा। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह। सतगुरु दी साजी नवाजी साध संगत जीओ आप जी वडभागी हो। धन धन गुरु ग्रंथ साहिब जी महाराज राजान राज भानान भान देवान देव उपमा महान दी पवित्र हजूरी विच जुड़ बैठे हो साध संगत जी। आप जी अपनी असीसां बख्शनियां। आओ असी गुरु अर्जन देव महाराज दे इह शब्द दी विचार करिए। I'll speak primarily in English because after me Tan Swami Ram Singh Ji from the Nirmala Sampada will speak in Hindi Punjabi mix. So we'll get a little bit of both languages. So this shabad is in Rag Asa, read by or said by Guru Arjan Dev Ji Maharaj. And this portion of the shabad is said by that jigyasu or that Sikh who has done a lot of tapasya, who has done a lot of bhakti, and has come to a point where they've left it to Vaheguru. In the pathway to enlightenment, at the very beginning, sometimes we get encouraged to do bhakti, to do tapasya. And then there actually comes a time where you do the bhakti, where you do the sadhana. And you do so much sadhana. If you read about the enlightened beings, they do sadhana, they do tapasya, they wake up in the morning, they do everything necessary, they're doing the seva, but nothing is happening. Absolutely nothing is happening. And there is a period in the pathway to enlightenment that a person feels a lot of pain because they're doing so much and nothing is happening. How kar kar thako upav bahotere नानक गरीब राखो हो हर मेरे कि मैं इन्ना कुछ कर रहा महाराज मैनू मिलाप हो जावे पर हो नहीं रहा मैं अरदास भी कर रहा मैं तप भी कर रहा हैं मैं बहुत कुछ सह भी रहा है दुनिया दा मान अपमान भी सह रहा है मोह भी टुटदा हो या देख रहा है पर कुछ हो नहीं रहा महाराज मिलाप नहीं हो रहा आई एम नॉट मेकिंग प्रोग्रेस द ट्रूथ इज when a person works very hard for this, there comes a time where the person then starts to back off. And the person, the jigyasu, starts to think, this is not within my hands. But that moment in the mind only comes after the jigyasu has worked very hard. Then not before, where you haven't worked hard and you say, no, this is all in Vaheguru's hand. This stage that we're going to talk about in the Shabad comes after a person's worked very hard, then they back off. They worked extremely hard, they did all the ardas, but milap didn't happen. Mergence with Vaheguru, darshan of Vaheguru didn't happen. Then the second stage comes, where they say that this isn't within my hands. And they truly say that this is left to Vaheguru, not to me. When that stage comes, I'm doing it briefly because I'm going to discuss this only within half an hour. When that stage comes where they back off and they say, Vaheguru, je tanu milap manjoor hai ta hoga, je tanu nahi manjoor ta nahi hoga, manu dono manjoor hai. When the person completely loses themselves, then it happens. It's two stages. One, the person works very hard. That's the painful stage because you work very hard and nothing happens. Then naturally, as you progress and you've worked very difficult, it's been life-changing, it's been life-transforming, then you back down. And you say, Maharaj, it's up to you. If you want it to happen, then it will happen. Then it happens when the person completely backs down. That is called harna. Guru de samne harna. Ab hum chali thakur peh har. Jab hum saran prabhu ki aayi, rakh prabhu paave mar. You can choose to keep me, or you can choose not to keep me, and I accept both. Then it happens. So a person becomes extremely soft, extremely komal. ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਕੋਮਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੋਲ ਕੋਮਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦਾ ਛੂਣਾ ਕੋਮਲ ਹੋ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਹੈ ਚਾਹੇ ਉਹ ਸਭ ਨੂੰ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਦ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਕੋਮਲ ਦ੍ਰਿਸ਼ਟੀ ਨਾਲ ਦੇਖਦੇ ਚਾਹੇ ਉਸਨੇ ਅੰਮ੍ਰਿਤ ਛਕਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਨਾ ਛਕਿਆ ਹੋਵੇ ਜਾਂ ਉਹ ਈਸਾਈ ਹੋਵੇ ਮੁਸਲਮਾਨ ਹੋਵੇ ਛੋਟਾ ਬੱਚਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਬੁੱਢਾ ਹੋਵੇ ਜੋ ਕੋਈ ਵੀ ਹੋਵੇ ਇੱਕੋ ਹੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਕੋਮਲਤਾ ਦੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੇਖਦਾ they become extremely soft then it happens when they completely back out. So this is that moment where a person has done the tap, they've backed down, they're very soft, they're in that komal phase, and it happened. Guru Arjan Dev Maharaj Ji is reciting, Sai alakh apar pori man vasai, dukh dard rog maaye maida hab nasai. Hey Sai, hey my beloved, alakh apar, tu keho jaye? ਜਦੋਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੇਰੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਿਲਾਪ ਹੋਇਆ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਪਤਾ ਚੱਲਿਆ ਕਿ ਤੂੰ ਲਖਨ 'ਚ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈਗਾ there's nothing I can say to describe what it's like. That's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji has said. Nanak kathna karda sar. It's like trying to chew iron if I try to describe that experience. When the yogis and the siddhas asked Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they didn't give a description of what Vaheguru was like. All they said was Vismad, Vismad. All they said was, Vah, Vah. It's the closest I can give you about that experience. They say Sai alakh apar. There's no limit to that Vaheguru. If there was a limit, then maybe I can describe it. Maybe I could use a limit to describe it. Think of a circle. You draw a line and you make a circle, right? Now get rid of the line. How do you describe the circle? Is it even a circle anymore? Everything in the world that we describe has some kind of limit, definition. That's how we describe it. That's what definition actually means, the word definition. But where there is no limits, how do I even tell you what it is? Sai alakh apar pori man vasai. Oftentimes in Guru Granth Sahib Ji, you'll come across shabads that talk about ek shabad mera pran bast hai, bahud janam na ava. Pori man vasai. Tuk dam karari jau karo hazir hazur khudai. These lines of Gurbani that say just one moment of seeing you and it's all done. The enlightened beings say, try to flick your eye open, blink. How quick does a blink happen? They say Brahm Gyan happens even quicker than that. Enlightenment happens even quicker than that. You take a flower and you just squeeze it between two hands. और मसल जाता बहुत छेती कहते मसलने दे विच भी टाइम लगता पर ब्रह्म ज्ञान च इन्ना भी टाइम नहीं लगता वाहिगुरु दे दर्शन च इन्ना भी टाइम नहीं लगता भोरी मन वसै एक भोरी मात्र जे वो वस जावे तो क्या हुंदा है दैट मोमेंट ऑफ एनलाइटनमेंट दुख दर्द रोग माए मैडा हब नसै दुख केड़ी गल दा कि बहुत जन्म हो गए वाहिगुरु अजे तक तेरा मिलाप नहीं होया क्योंकि मैं इत्थे बैठा है क्या मैं बैठी हैं इसका मतलब मिलाप नहीं होया होया. There's been so many lifetimes before this. Sometimes I was a queen, sometimes I was a king, sometimes I was a beggar, sometimes my life was difficult, sometimes my life was easy. But I've done this many times. I have had many different types of children. I've had many different types of husbands and wives, many different types of friends, but I'm still here and I'm doing the same thing over again. Ek dukh hai mere andar ki hun tak gal nahi hui. And dard, dukh, dard kis gal da ki hun mera ek nama main is janam de vich vi nahi tanu pa sakya. The pain, dukh, is that this has happened many times before. Dard is that it's happening right now. In just a few more days, I'm going to change bodies and the whole drama is going to begin again. Manu dard is gal da ki aje tak is janam de vich bhi manu darshan nahi hoye hage. It hasn't even happened this time. Kyun nahi hoya? Rog. The greatest rog Maharaj jehda mere akhan de upar parda piya hoya hai na avidya da maya da eh mere zindagi da sab to vadda rog hai. पर जदों मैं तन्नू एक पौरी मात्र मिलिया, when I met you in that instant when darshan happened, what happened? Dukh of many lifetimes, the pain of this lifetime, the fundamental issue, the fundamental ignorance maya, मैडा हब नसै, ओ सब दूर हो गया. किस तरह दूर होया? People that get enlightened, they say something. They say, as soon as enlightenment happens, we got darshan of Vaheguru. It felt like all of these past lives, that all of our pains didn't even exist. They become completely, they vanish and it feels like it didn't even happen. Jyon supna arpe khana, it actually feels like a dream. I was in a dream, it passed by and now I'm awake. That's how separate and distant you become from this world. How vanya kurban sai apne, to that sai that I met, main balehar jawa. I am a sacrifice. Paisa kya cheez hunda hai? Parivar bhi kya cheez hunda hai? In Salok Sahaskriti that Swamiji is going to talk about after this, they're going to talk about what Guru Arjan Dev Ji's Upadesh is to the Sikhs. Parivar bhi kya hai? Paisa bhi kya hai? Eh duniya bhi kya hai? Jadon oho milda hai, us de agge sab kurban janda hai. Oftentimes ਆਪਾਂ ਸੋਚਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਕਿ ਆਪਾਂ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰੇਮ ਕਰਦੇ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਨਹੀਂ. my katha style is very forward. Sometimes I get in trouble for it. They're like, you should be a little nicer, you should just say more lovely things on stage. But what's there is there, can't avoid it. And Swamiji often gives this example. If you want money, if you get a night shift, they pay you double. Let's say they said, it's troublesome time, it's a night shift, we're going to pay you double or triple. Would you take it if you wanted money? Most people would say, I would take the night shift. If someone told you, what about we pray from 12 to 2? Or what about we just wake up from 3 or 4 or 5, and the person says, oh, I want to sleep. So there's a little guidance as to whether it's within us to even want to meet Vaheguru. Which one do we value more, the money or Vaheguru? It's a good indicator. You can ask yourself about it. Havanya Gurban Sahi apne hove anadakana man tan japne. Aur lakha hi lakha anand hundae jadon main man karke tan karke, meaning all of my life energies are invested into remembering you. All of my life energies are invested. When I say Vaheguru, I am completely there. It's not that I say Vaheguru from the mouth and my mind is somewhere else. I am completely there, completely invested, and I flower. Main khil janna hove anand karna bahut anand aunda Maharaj rahao. So the Sakhi that's related to this, all of you know that Guru Gobind Singh Sahib Ji Maharaj went to Machiwara jungle, right? After they fought at Anandpur Sahib, fought at Chamkaur. And if you trek their pathway to Machiwara through the jungles, you can tell that Maharaj could have taken a different path, maybe a more safe path. But they went through these jungles to a very specific place called Gulabe da Bagh. It was a garden that was owned by a person named Gulaba, by Gulaba. And they were sitting in that garden, their vastras, their clothes were bloodied. They didn't have their shastras with them, they had one kirpan. You could tell where they were wounded because the blood had dried up. You could tell that they were thirsty. They didn't look like the king that they were in Anandpur Sahib. And Gulaba saw that there was somebody in the garden. They sent one of their servants. Gulabe ne apne sevadar nu bhejja kya, Gulab ja usnu leke aa jo baitha hai uthe te dudh vi pyale lag gaya, bahut thakkya lagda hai. When the servant went there and gave milk, they found out it was Guru Gobind Singh Ji Maharaj. Then Bhai Gulaba went to receive them and brought them to their house. Guru Gobind Singh Ji says, Bhai Gulabya, mera ਇੱਥੇ ਆਉਣ ਦਾ ਕੋਈ ਮਕਸਦ ਹੈ. Gulabya, ਇੱਥੇ ਕੋਈ ਮਾਤਾ ਰਹਿੰਦੀ ਹੈ? Is there an old mother that lives here somewhere by the name of Gurdai? Bhai Gulaba ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਹਾਂਜੀ ਮਹਾਰਾਜ, ਮਾਤਾ ਗੁਰਦਈ ਇੱਥੇ ਹੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ, ਸਾਡੇ ਗਲੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਰਹਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਉਹ. ਕਹਿਣ ਗੁਲਾਬਿਆ ਜਾ ਮਾਤਾ ਜੀ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆ. The night was dark. Sunrise was about to happen. So Gulaba takes his torch and he goes to Nihalla Khatri's house. Nihalla Khatri was the son of Mata Gurdai. Mata Gurdai bahut budri ho chuki si. Her knees, they didn't work anymore. She had a very difficult time walking. And her eyes, whatever the issue, she couldn't see through them very much anymore. Very blurry. Bhai Gulaba comes to Nihalla Khatri's house and asks, is Mataji okay? Is she here? Nihalla Khatri says, I think my mother is here. Because she sits on that chair and she just wanders into space. She doesn't move around very much. She doesn't talk very much. बस एक वस्त्र सीगा ਉਹ ਸਿਉਂਦੇ ਸੀ ਵਸਤਰ ਸਿਉਂਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਉਹਨੇ ਵਸਤਰ ਬਣਾ ਲਿਆ ਉਹਨੂੰ ਵੀ ਛੱਡਤਾ ਬਸ ਇੱਕ ਜਗ੍ਹਾ ਬਹਿ ਕੇ वाहिगुरू वाहिगुरू जपदी है और उडीक करी जाती, पता नहीं किस दी उडीक करती है वो, पर बहुती हिलदी नहीं, कुछ सुनती नहीं हैगी, बहुत बुढ़ड़ी हो चुकी है। कहते निहालिया गल इस तरह है कि गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी आए हुए ने, मेरे घर ठहरे हुए हैं। गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी इज़ हीयर, तो उन्होंने माता नू बुलाया है। माता गुरदई जिहड़ा अपना सिर भी नहीं सी हिलाउंदे, एकदम हिलाया, देखिया कौन गल कर रहा है। गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी आए हुए ने। माता गुरदई दे विच एक तमन्ना सी कि मैं बहुत बुढ़ड़ी हो चुकी हैं, मैं तुर के किते जा भी नहीं सकती, कि मैं काश मैं गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी बारे सुनिया तो बहुत है, पर मैं जाके मिल नहीं सकती उन्होंने, कि काश मेरी यह दे छड्डन तो पहला मैं अपने गुरु दे एक बार दर्शन कर सकां। मैं तो जा नहीं सी सकती, मेरा गुरु मेरे को खुद मिलन आया है। और चौंकी, क्यों? बिंदक गाल सुनी सच्चे तिस्तनी। मैं तो एक दो बारी सोचा सी गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी बारे कि वो आउंगे, फिर मैं आस भी छड्डती सी कि कोई ना महाराज किते होने हैं, जंगां च लड़ते हैं, अपना पूरा परिवार उन्होंने दे दिता, गवाता, कि कोई ना मैं शरीर छड्ड दूंगी, पर मैं उन्होंने याद करदी करदी छड्डूंगी। पर वो थोड़ी जी मेरी अरदास नूं उन्होंने सुन लिया। बिंदक गाल सुनी सच्चे तिस धनी, और सच्चे धनी ने, सच्चे वाहिगुरु ने, दयालु ने मेरी एक थोड़ी मात्र अरदास सुन ली। सुखी हूँ सुख पाए माए ना कीम गणी। मैं सुखा नूं, इहो जे सुख महासुख नूं प्राप्त करन जा रही है हुण। She moves her chair. Nihalya, her voice is hoarse and she calls Nihalya, Nihalya मैनू लेके चल, मैं जाना है, अब वस्त्र चक। Bhai Gulaba holds her from one side, Nihalya Khatri holds her from the other side। ते उदों गलियां कच्ची हुंदियां सी साध संगत जी, ते लाइटां तां लगियां नहीं सी हुंदियां। ते फिर गुलाबे ने एक लैंटर्न चकी हुई सी, he was carrying a lantern। एक पासे, one side was Gulaba, one side was Nihalya Khatri, and they're helping Mataji move because she can't move very well anymore। रस्ते दे विच टोए हैं, and it says in इतिहास कि मींह भी पैंदा है, because those were the winter days in India। In winter time it doesn't snow, it rains। पर गलिए चिक्कड़ दूर कर नाल प्यारे ने हो। I'm still going to go to meet him। Mataji, as she's starting to walk, all of those things that she envisioned are coming, कि मैं finally गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी दे दर्शन करन लगी हैं। जदों माता जी अंदर आए, गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी बैठे सी, ते सब कुछ सुनसान चुप, पर लाइट नहीं सीगी। माता जी जदों अंदर गए, गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी उत्थे ही, माता जी भी उत्थे ही, पर अजे तक माता जी ने देखा नहीं सी, ते अखां दी जिहड़ी ताकत सी वो भी बहुत घट गई सी। She couldn't see very well। Guru Gobind Singh Ji standing there, she's standing there, but she hasn't seen him yet। So दीवा चकदे हैं अपने हत्थां दे नाल, ते वो मूँह दे कोल करदे हैं। उदों जाके गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी दे दर्शन होए, और माता रोन लग गई, ते बोले ना कुछ माता, क्योंकि जदों कोई रोंदा है, वैराग आउंदा है, तुहानूं पता ही है कि बोलना औखा हो जाता है। When someone cries and goes into वैराग, it becomes difficult to speak। ते माता बस दीवा गुरु गोबिंद सिंह जी दे मूँह दे कोल करया होया है, ते देख रहे हैं, ते रो रहे हैं कि नैन पसंदो सोए पेख मुस्ताक पई। मेरे नैन तैनू इन्ना पसंद करते हैं गुरु महाराज, तैनू देख के मैं मोहित हो गई हैं। So she's, and then Guru Gobind Singh Ji speaks कि माँ इन्ना वैराग क्यों कर रही हैं? माँ, why are you in so much वैराग? Say something, ask for something। After a while, Mataji finally conjures up, She stops crying and she finally takes the time to say something. And she says to Guru Gobind Singh Ji कि महाराज मैनू जिंदगी दे मंजिल तो अज तक मिली नहीं सी, मैं सोचा कि मैं ऐं चले जाना सीगा, पर अज मैनू मंजिल मिली है। मेरी बस एक अरदास है तुहाडे अगे कि जदों यह मत्था मैं टेकां, जदों मेरा मत्था तुहाडे चरनां नूं छूए तो मैं उसी वक्त तुहाडे चरनां च अभेद हो जावां। She takes that vastar, she पेटाज it to Guru Maharaj and she goes down to bow. और जदों उन्हां दा मत्था गुरु महाराज दे चरनां नूं छुया ते फिर माता गुरदई वापस उपर नहीं आए, उत्थे ही उन्होंने प्राण छड्डते ते महाराज दे विच अभेद हो गए। She leaves her pran and she becomes one with Guru Gobind Singh Ji. That was her final desire, and Guru Gobind Singh Ji themselves had come to meet Mata Ji. बिंदक गाल सुनी सच्चे तिस्तनी, सुखी हूँ सुख पाए माए ना कीम गणी, नैन पसंदो सोए पेख मुस्ताक पई, मैं निर्गुण मेरी माए आप लड़ लाए लई। ओ जेड़े वस्त्र सी साध संगत जी, those clothes that Mata Gurdei had peta to Guru Maharaj, those were the clothes that Guru Gobind Singh Ji wore. And they became the Uchda Peer and left Machiwada, that village. जिग्यासु हमेशा जदों जिग्यासु दी ए पुकार पूरी हुंदी है ना कि मैं वाहिगुरु तेरे दर्शन हो जान, एक बारी तेरे नाल मिलाप हो जावे, जदों ये पूरा हुंदा ना हमेशा जिग्यासु यही सोचदा है कि जिन्नी बार मैं अरदास कीती सी और जिन्ना कुछ मैनू मिलिया, जिन्ना कुछ मैं कीता सी और जिन्ना कुछ मैनू मिलिया, मैं तो कुछ भी नहीं सी करया, मेरे अंदर तो कुछ भी नहीं सीगा, कोई भी तड़फ नहीं सी, उस मुकाबले जिन्ना कुछ मैनू मिल गया। This ratio, every enlightened being has always said this, that I didn't do that much and I got so much. थोड़ी जी उन्होंने अरदास सुनी तो मैनू दर्शन होए, किस तरह का सुख पाया, महा आनंद, आत्म ज्ञान, जिस दे नाल कदे भी हुण मौत नहीं होवेगी, जिस दे नाल कदे भी दुख दा सामना नहीं करना पवेगा। नैन पसंदो सोए पेख मुस्ताक पई, जदों ये अखां तो सरगुण स्वरूप नूं तो देख सकदी हैं, पर जिहड़ी बुद्धि रूपी नेत्र है वो आत्म स्वरूप नूं जदों देखदियां हैं, फाइनली शुद्ध आत्मा परमात्मा दे दर्शन होंदे हैं, तो बंदा एकदम समाधि च चले जाता है। उसका मतलब पेख मुस्ताक पई, इन्ना मोहित होंदा है बंदा कि वो अपने आप नूं गवा ही लैंदा है, तो एकदम समाधि च चले जाता है। The person becomes bodiless because they become so drawn to their inner self, their inner swaroop. मैं निर्गुण मेरी माए, मेरे दे विच तां इन्ने अवगुण सीगे, मैं इन्नी चंगी नहीं सी। वाहिगुरु जीव इस्तरी हमेशा वाहिगुरु नूं ये कहंदी है, the aspirant always says this to Vaheguru. They say, I wasn't that good, Maharaj, that you gave me this. मैं निर्गुण मेरी माए, मैनू खुद नहीं पता चल रहा। फिर वो अंत दे विच ऐं कहंदा है कि आप लड़ लाए लई, तू ही मैनू आप लड़ लाया सी, मेरे वस दी गल नहीं सी। जदों मैं पाया उदों मैनू पता चलिया कि किसी दी वस दी गल नहीं हैगी। इसी तरह साध संगत जी, माई कौलां, नैन पसंदो सोए पेख मुस्ताक पई, माई कौलां, when they first saw Guru Hargobind Sahib Ji, वो एकदम मोहित हो गए। And she decided कि महाराज ही मेरे पति हैं, मैं इन्हां नूं ही सब कुछ सौंपिया है, मैं होर किसी दी नहीं हो सकती। पर माई कौलां was from a Muslim family, and her brother or brother-in-law forced her to get married. And when she was getting forced to marry somebody, she would do ardas, Maharaj, I cannot be anybody else's. I have already given myself up to you. Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji gets on their horse alone and they start making a run towards where Mai Kaula is. And before she gets married, they take Mai Kaula and bring her back. Bindak gaal suni sache tistani. They tell Mai Kaula, I accept you as a shish, I accept you as a Sikh, and I will keep you here as well. But we won't have the relationship a wife and a husband has. And she accepts that as long as I just get to be with you, it's enough for me. And she does tapasya in the same vicinity that Guru Har Gobind Sahib Ji did their sangats, they did their updesh, and she reaches an enlightened state. There is, in Harmandir Sahib, there is another sarovar called Kaulsar, which is named after her. मैं निर्गुण मेरी माए आप लड़ लाए लई ते जिग्यासु क्या कहता है कि जिन्ना मैं तेरे बारे पढ़िया सीगा, जिन्ना भी मैं करिया सीगा, जो भी मैं रिचुअल्स, जो भी मैं रहत रखी सी, सब कुछ जो भी संसार दे नियम सीगे, बेद कतेब संसार हब्बा हूँ बाहरा। वाहिगुरु तू तो इस तो बहुत ज़्यादा परे हैं, बहुत ज़्यादा परे हैं, जिन्ना मैं पढ़िया सी उस तो बहुत ज़्यादा गुण है। Bhagat Kabir ji says about this avastha, they say, बावन अक्षर लोक त्रय सब किछ इन्हीं माहे, ए अखर खिर जाहेंगे ओ अखर इन मह नाहे, नानक कथना करड़ा सार, पार है अनाम है, कोई अखर नहीं जेड़े उसनू कैप्चर कर सकते पूरा पूरा। बेद कतेब संसार हब्बा हूँ बाहरा, तक किस तरह है नानक का पात साहो दिसै जाहरा। ਉਹ ਤਾਂ ਮੈਨੂੰ ਪਲ ਪਲ ਇੱਕ ਇੱਕ ਚੀਜ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦਿਖਦਾ, ਕਿਵੇਂ ਕੋਈ ਬਿਆਨ ਕਰ ਸਕੇ, ਕਿਵੇਂ ਅੱਖਰਾਂ 'ਚ ਲਿਖ ਸਕੇ। There is even a shabad in Guru Granth Sahib Ji that says, if you took all of the oceans and made them into ink, and you took all of the wood, all of the paper resources and made them the paper, and even if then I tried to write all my life what Vaheguru is like, what that experience is like, I still couldn't describe it. ਨਾਨਕ ਕਾ ਪਾਤ ਸਾਹੋ ਦਿਸੈ ਜਾਹਰਾ, ਫਿਰ ਉਹ ਵਿਸਮਾਦ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਾ ਕੇ ਸਿਰਫ ਉਸ ਆਨੰਦ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਣਦਾ ਹੀ ਹੈ, because it's the only thing you can do, just be there. Vismad, which is what Guru Nanak Dev Ji's description of Vaheguru has always been Vismad. It's written in Siddh Ghost as well. Sad Sangat Ji, I just wanted to end off with this. Every person in this Sangat should never think that I'm too old or unaccomplished or I don't know enough or I haven't done enough to meet Vaheguru. 300 years of a legacy from Guru Nanak Dev Ji to Guru Gobind Singh Ji, and now in the form of Guru Granth Sahib Ji. Why? Why? So the person that goes to the store and works can get enlightened. So the person that works in the villages, grows their crops, can get enlightened. So that the person who has children, to the woman who has children, to the woman who does work at home, who does seva at the Gurdwara, can get enlightened. To a mother, and old buddhari maa ji to tur nahi hunda, jehdi dekh nahi sakdi, can get enlightened. So that a person who makes cloth, like Bhagat Kabir ji, can get enlightened. To a person who makes shoes, who cuts the leather, cleans the leather, makes the shoes and sells it at the store, can get enlightened, like Bhagat Ravidas ji. Are we any different than that? Every single person has the possibility. I have the honor and the kirpa of Maharaj that I can get to read the granths that talk about enlightenment, the adhyatmic descriptions of Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and it always says in there that one of the largest obstacles to enlightenment is that the seeker thinks it can't happen to him. That the seeker thinks that mere naal ho hi nahi sakdi eh gal. Mera janam lang gaya, that I can never be enlightened. This one thought process is one of the largest obstacles to meeting Vaheguru, to having darshan of Maharaj's Sarup. Let it go, but believe firmly, hoga, mera Vaheguru auga, jarur auga. That is the thought process you should move forward with, and then give it your all. And that's all I wanted to end off with. Sad Sangat Ji, I've made many mistakes. If I've said anything that offended you, please forgive me. देहो सज्जन असीसड़ियाँ जो होवे साहिब से मेल भुल्लां चुकां दी खिमा बख्शनी। आओ साध संगत जी आपा स्वामी राम सिंह जी निर्मला पासों श्लोक सहस्कृति दी विचार सुनिए। वाहिगुरु जी का खालसा, वाहिगुरु जी की फतेह।